Hi guys, welcome to main course. It's donut day. I am Chef Lawrence and we're going to be doing easy donuts here at the house or here in the school. I'm going to make sure you guys washed your hands. I just washed my hands. 20 seconds, warm water, soap, scrub, scrub, scrub. Get your nails, get in between your fingers, get everywhere. Make sure it's clean. We're going to be cooking with donuts today, but we're going to be cooking with egg. So egg is a potential hazard for salmonella, so we need to make sure when we touch the egg, we wash our hands again. I'm going to go over real quickly what we need for the class. There's a question already out there. What if I don't have buttermilk? It's okay, you can use regular milk, the 3/4 cups recipe. Regular milk, but you're going to add in a teaspoon of something acidic. So it has to be vinegar or lemon juice, or a half teaspoon of cream of tartar will work. Something like that. It has to have an acid to activate this baking powder so that the baking powder will rise. So we always have an acid when we're using baking powder. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on our list of what we've got. So that you've gathered everything, you should be ready for our class, but we want to make sure that we get it done. We need 2 cups of all-purpose flour. If you don't have all-purpose, you have bread flour or cake flour, it'll work in a pinch. It's not going to be the same consistency as mine. This is my recipe. All right, we also have 3/4 cups of sugar. This is granulated sugar like you'd put on cereal or make with chocolate chip cookies. We have 2 teaspoons of baking soda. Powder. We have cinnamon today. It's a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. Just a little cinnamon in that donut will give it a little bit of flavor. It won't taste like cinnamon. It'll just give it some underlying flavors that are not taste just like dough. We have salt today. It's 1 teaspoon of salt. Sorry, 1 teaspoon of salt. Then you're going to need your buttermilk, like we talked about. 3/4 cup buttermilk. I've already measured mine out. If you don't have buttermilk, we said we can use milk with a little bit of vinegar. So a teaspoon of vinegar. We need 2 chicken eggs. If you've got duck eggs, you can use that too, but about this size. So if you've got a big egg, then substitute just 1. We also have a teaspoon of vanilla. This is vanilla extract. You can use regular vanilla extract. You can use real vanilla. You can use imitation. It doesn't matter. As long as it gives a little bit of flavor. And then we have 2 tablespoons of melted butter. And this room is so cold that the butter's already not melted anymore, but we'll get it when we mix it in, it'll come back together, okay? So you've got all those ingredients together, and we're going to it's easy. We're just mixing it into a bowl. This is the easy part, it's just getting it all together. So what I'm gonna do is add in my dry ingredients first. So we're gonna start with, let me tell you about this before. Can you see all those? Okay, so here's what we're doing today for our donuts, and I want you to look around in your kitchen and see if there's anything left. We're doing Reese's peanut butter cups on top. These are the mini ones. We're going to do mini Oreo donuts. We've got mini chocolate chips, and then these are sprinkles like you would just put on a sundae or cupcakes. And then I've got Nerds. Nerds are excellent for this because they're bright color, and these are just candy. These are going to be candy-coated donuts. And I apologize now to the parents because you're going to have some sugar-wired kids this afternoon. All right, so let's get started. We're going to add in our 2 cups of all-purpose flour. If you have bread flour or cake flour or whole wheat flour, something like that, they're just going to change. It's just going to change it up a little bit. Okay, that's a dry ingredient. We're going to add in our baking powder. That's 2 teaspoons. If you're measuring right now and doing that, I'm going to give you a little bit more time. I'll repeat it again, so just keep going. We have salt, 1 teaspoon of salt. We have 3/4 cup of granulated sugar. All right, so we get all those into the bowl before we add in our wet ingredients. Actually, we've got cinnamon too, so a teaspoon of cinnamon, or a 1/4 teaspoon. Yep, I'm going to move it all closer. So all we've got left over on the side is our eggs, our buttermilk, our butter, and our vanilla. So we've got that all come together. And I'm just going to use a whisk right now. And the whisk is just going to help me to break up any of the lumps in the baking powder and the flour. And you're just going to mix it until everything disappears. All the cinnamon's hiding in the flour, the sugar's hiding in there, the baking powder is hiding, so it's all mixed together, the dry ingredients, before we move on to the wet ingredients. So you want to make sure that all of that is mixed. All right, that way, because when you add the wet ingredients, they don't all become one little place, so you don't get pockets of your ingredients of cinnamon and baking powder in other places, okay? The salt's in there as well. So I'm gonna go over real quickly, since some of you are measuring out everything. I'm doing it for Catherine. Catherine, I'm repeating this for you. We're doing 2 cups of all-purpose flour. We're doing a 3/4 cup of granulated sugar. We're using 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. And that's like cinnamon powder. It's not the cinnamon stick. All right. So that's all in there now. Okay. Now I want you to switch from this whisk to something like this, into a spatula. All right. All right. We want to switch because once you're starting adding liquid, unless it's a thin liquid in the dough, this is all gonna get inside all these little tines. So we just want to get rid of that, move into this. Welcome everybody. 300 people have just joined us today. Loving that everyone loves donuts as much as I do. Probably not quite as much as I do, but you have a chance to acquire many more donuts in your lives. We're gonna go ahead and add in, we're gonna make a little well in the middle. We're gonna add in our buttermilk. So your dry ingredients are in the bowl, and we're just gonna add in our buttermilk in the middle. And remember, you've got your spatula now, so you can help get out all of the ingredients. Sometimes buttermilk likes to stick inside that container. We're gonna add in our 2 eggs. What I'm gonna have you do first is I want you to crack your eggs into a small bowl, and I want you to whisk it. We always crack on the countertop, not on the side of the bowl, because you have the potential of dropping your egg shell into the bowl. So you want to do it there and crack it that way. Remember, we're touching our eggs now. So if you're touching the eggs, you have the potential of transferring salmonella anywhere else you touch. That's called cross-contamination. And you want to make sure we're clean. I've mixed up my eggs so that it looks like I made scrambled eggs. I'm getting ready to make breakfast, but I'm not. I'm going to be making these donuts, and these are donuts for any time of the day. All right, so I'm going to wash my hands real quick because I touched the egg. 20 seconds, soap and water, scrub them up, and we'll wait for you guys to come back. What's that? All right, I'm back. So how are you guys doing so far? Are y'all ready to proceed? You can use whole milk. The question was, can you use whole milk instead of buttermilk? Absolutely. You need to add an extra teaspoon of lemon juice or vinegar. It needs an acid in the milk. That's what buttermilk is an acidic, a very acidic milk. All right. So I'm going to start mixing this a little bit. I'm adding in my eggs. Get all the good stuff. It sticks to the bowl. I'm just going to set to the side. I'm going to add in my vanilla. And then I'm going to add in my melted butter. And this one's not quite melted, but it's going to be good. You just make sure yours is melted at home. My microwave is not close. Okay. Okay. There's also a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg in here as well. And we decided we didn't want to put it on the tray this morning. But if you've got it, make sure it gets into your recipe. All right, so we're going to start to mix. And this is going to be a dough. And Chef Terry, would you grab some biscuit cutters? And you're just gonna, it's not gonna be a wet dough, it's gonna be kind of a dry dough. You just wanna keep mixing it by hand until all this flour disappears into the dough. Takes a little bit of work, a little bit of patience because that flour wants to jump out of the bowl. You can certainly use a KitchenAid if you have it, but I like to mix it by hand because I don't like to overwork this dough. Thank you. That Chef Terry, he's in the kitchen making noises this morning. He's got the sniffles. All right, so look how that's coming together. Need a little bit more flour too. So if you got a sticky dough, like I do, we're gonna give it a little bit more flour before we turn it out. Chef Terry. Okay. So we're getting a little bit more flour in our kitchen, and we're in the front kitchen, and there's a back kitchen with all the ingredients in it. So we're getting a little more flour, and then we're going to roll it out, or what we're going to do is pat it out into a flat surface. Instead of rolling, we're going to just pat. Thank you. So Chef Internet just got me a little bit of flour. So make sure you get your flour out on your surface before you roll your dough out. Before you roll your dough out. Okay? So now you're turning your dough out, and I'm gonna let you guys catch up. It should be all mixed in. Try to get all that dough out. All right? I'm just gonna set it to the side. It is not salted butter. If you use salted butter, eliminate the salt in the recipe. So it is regular butter, regular unsalted butter. All right. Okay. So add a little more flour. So the question is, if my dough looks a little wet, what do? I'm going to ask you to add a little bit more flour. So we're all in different places, and the humidity affects how your dough looks. It really plays a part in baking, especially here in Texas where we have a lot of humidity. Sometimes we have to add a little bit more flour to our recipes just to make sure that nothing sticks, right? So I'm adding a little bit more flour, and I'm making sure that it doesn't stick on the counter. Kind of want to keep it moving, keep it soft. So while we're here, and we're gonna let this dough rest for just a minute, we're gonna turn on our stove underneath the oil. So that was 1 quart of fryer oil that we're gonna need. Where do I live? I live in Magnolia, Texas. All right, I'm gonna grab one thing in the kitchen. I'll be right back. I'm gonna turn the fire on to medium high. Where do you live? Who asked me where I live? All right, so what I went to get was a bench scraper. You probably don't have this in your house, but that just, it just helps you when you're working on the countertop to move things around. All right. If you don't have that, you can use the side of a knife. All I'm doing is folding this dough kind of like in layers so that when we put it together, make sure that all of it's not wet. When we smash it out, it'll kind of have some small layers, and then that donut, when we fry it, will come up a little bit. Absolutely. Marie, the question was, can I use a mixer? You can certainly use a mixer to bring this dough together, but the dough is really easy to overmix. You don't want to work it too hard because you don't want to develop a lot of gluten, and that would make your donut tough. All right. So I've got my dough out. I'm kind of patted it out. Instead of rolling it out, I'm getting it all up even. Okay. And then I'm just going to wash my hands real quick just to get this dough off of it. They haven't touched anything that's not ready to eat. So I'm going to go ahead and touch it. All right, I will tell them in a second. So the question was about what's the powdered milk and milk, powdered sugar and milk. Sorry, what is that for? That is for the glaze. That's why it's at the bottom of the recipe after the oil, because it's not part of the donut recipe. That is for the glaze when we get ready to do the donut. All right. So I've got my oil going. We wanted to get to 350 degrees, and this is where I want you to have your parents with you, helping you fry. You can also do this recipe in the oven. It'll work. But ours, we wanted it to be an authentic donut today, so we wanted to fry. I'm just gonna move some of this out of the way. And what I've got my setup here is the oil here. Make sure your handle is out of the way. It's not facing out where you can knock it off. It could even be turned around away from you, which is probably the safest. All right, I've got a slotted spoon. It's a big slotted spoon, and that's just to take the donuts out of with and flip it over with. I've also got a baking sheet topped with, this is not parchment paper, this is paper towels. And then I've got one with draining, like a cooling rack for cookies. That's another good way to just cool off your donut and to make sure the oil's draining down and not staying on the donut, okay? So I have a thermometer, and I probably didn't ask you for the thermometer to get the thermometer, but I'm gonna just check my oil temperature with a thermometer. This is, right now, mine is about 180 degrees. And I'm looking for 350. All right, so it's jumping quickly. I'm at 250. And in some places in my oil, it's 200, and some of it's 215. Over here is 249. So just know that you've got to move your oil around very gently a little bit, just to make sure that oil is all the same temperature throughout. All right, we'll wait a couple more minutes. And while we're doing that, I'm gonna go ahead. What I've got here are ring molds, or cookie cutters, or whatever you guys call it. I call them biscuit cutters. And I'm looking for 2 holes, so I'm going to use the smallest one, this one, for the middle of the donut. And I think I want my donuts about this big, maybe a little bit bigger, smaller. So what if you don't have these? What do? You use a glass, okay? So if you get a glass, you can stay there. I've got a glass here. I've got these plastic cups. You can use a glass instead of the cutter. It's about the same size, and you're going to use that, and then you're going to poke a hole with your finger, or with a spoon you can make a circle. So I'm going to go ahead and cut mine. Sure. So the oil I'm using today is canola oil. I know I told you guys something with a high smoke point. That is an oil that doesn't smoke at a low, it doesn't start to burn. Like example of that is olive oil. Olive oil doesn't cook really well at a high temperature, so we don't want to use that for this because we're going to 350. And I'm going to check that again. Canola is great. Peanut is great. I'm at about 250, 270, it just changes until we get up there. Got another minute. All right, so I've got this going. I'm gonna cut my donut hole, right? And now I'm gonna take this, and because it's right at 300 almost, I'm just gonna pop it in there and use that as my test. All right. I'm just cutting little holes. I'm gonna show you what I was talking about. You can use something else. Grab me a spoon. Yeah, just something stir coffee with or whatever. I don't understand the question, Krishna. She added cream of tartar. No, she added it into the mix because it was in the substitution of the buttermilk. It's milk and cream of tartar. The acid is in there. That's what you needed, was the acid from the cream of tartar. All right. So this is another way to if you don't have a cutter, just to open up a circle. And then there's no requirement that you even have to have a hole in the middle of your donut. You can leave it without a hole. All right, that's another donut hole. All right, here we go. I'm gonna use my bench scraper. I'm gonna cut around this donut and pull that off. About a 1/4 inch. So my dough right now is about a 1/4 inch thick, and that's enough to scrape the donut up, take it and put it into the pan, right? Make sure your dough's not sticky. If it's a little sticky, it's okay. I'm gonna go in. And remember, these are handmade donuts, these aren't like the store make like Krispy Kreme or anything else like that. They may be a little off on your side. You try to do your best, but this dough is forgiving enough to let us toss it in there like that. It's starting to cook up. Here's some donut holes that are going. Can you see those two? All right, donut holes are going. I'm gonna get another one of these in here. I'm gonna get the one that doesn't have the hole in the middle, because there's no requirement for a donut to have a hole. When you're putting it in, be very careful. Set the donut into the oil and then kind of move it away from your hand. And if you're scared, let your mom do this. And if your mom's scared, let your dad do it. I keep washing my hands because my hand's getting sticky and I don't want my hands to stick on the donut. All right, so take a look into our pan here. This donut is ready to flip. I'm just gonna reach underneath it with this slotted spoon and flip it. All right, be careful. There you go, that one's going. I'm gonna try this one too. Go to the edge of the pan and flip away from you. Always flip where the oil, if it was to splash, it would splash away from you. So questions were about how do you do this if you want to do it in the oven? You would just take these donuts and put them on a sheet pan. Make sure you put a parchment paper or some kind of non-stick spray on there so that it won't stick, and then you can bake these, and these can be baked donuts as well. The same recipe will bake or fry. The question was, can I talk about air fryers? I really don't. I've never used an air fryer in my life. It's just not one of those things. I'm certain these will work, and I'm certain you can use my recipe and look at the procedures on how to make donuts in an air fryer. Google probably has a ton of different ways to do it. I couldn't tell you how to do it because I've never done it. All right, so I'm taking my first donut out, not the donut holes. I'm just gonna slip it over here. There's my first one, and the oil's starting to get really hot, so I'm just gonna turn that down a little bit. I know it's getting hot because my donuts are starting to turn brown faster and faster. So I'm gonna just put that there, take out my two little donut holes, and then we're gonna do another batch. Thank you. What if I wanted to keep it? All right. We're gonna do one more one with no hole. These are the ones that you can take and you can fill them, right? You can fill that donut with something. You could do Bavarian cream or whipped cream after they cool off. My favorite donut is a maple bacon donut. So I've gotten that one from a place called Voodoo Donuts. There is also a couple of donut places in San Francisco that have great donuts. Dynamo Donuts is one of them. It's been a while too. I may not be there anymore. I was down near my house when I lived in San Francisco. I'm going to say 2.5 to 3 minutes per side, but it really depends on the oil that you're working with. If your oil's a little hotter, then you may go a little faster. If it was a little cooler, and the oil will cool off because you're putting cold dough in it. So you're just going to keep an eye on your temperature. Right now I am at 320. So that's pretty good. I mean, once if you're at 350 and you're out at 320, may turn it up just a little bit, but you really just want to keep an eye on it. Don't want it to go really high. Nothing over 400. All right. That one without the hole is going to go will take a little longer to cook too. All right. So the way I know it's ready to be pulled out is it's brown all over, but it's also, you can feel the weight of it. It's kind of light and airy. The other one, when I moved it, it felt like I was moving a rock. All right. There we go. This one's pretty good. I'm gonna flip it over. You can see how brown that is. It's kind of browner than it wants to be. Still hot. This is not. There we go. All right. How's everyone doing? Is anyone frying now? Have we seen anybody say they're frying? All right. Anyone made a donut yet? I want to make sure you guys are having a good time, but making sure that it's not too hard for you. Well, I'll stay here until you answer some questions. I'm just going to keep making my donuts. So, one's good? They look good, okay? Yeah, I've said about adding more flour depending on where you are and the humidity. I'm not second. The question is, some people say they have runny dough or sticky dough. I had some sticky dough, so I added a little bit more flour. You shouldn't need to add twice as much flour as it's called for. I'm wondering if you guys use a different kind of milk, a different recipe, like things in the recipe that you didn't normally have, and you went ahead and substituted. The recipe I called for is exactly what I'm doing right now live, so I'm wondering if there was any errors made. Beth made 6. That's awesome, Beth. Beth made 6 donuts. Now you guys, remember, I want to see your donuts after you decorate them too. You can give me a couple good pictures. You're going to post it to our Facebook page. We're also adding those to our Instagram. So love seeing those pictures. Right. So the scrap dough on the sides can be used to make more donuts. All right, I've got one here with a donut hole still in, but intact. So this is that donut. It had the donut hole in the center. Looks like a big ear. There we go. It's good without any sugar or anything on it, huh? All right. Toppings. All right, we're gonna move on to toppings in a minute. We're gonna fry our last donut here. I'm not gonna use the scraps. So the question was, what do we do with the scraps? All right, okay, guys, we could take them like this. Take your donut scraps. That's where the places that were between the donuts. And you can just roll them again. They're a little sticky. Go ahead and add a little more flour in. And real easily, you're just gonna flatten that out again. No need to roll it out. Just flatten it out. If you feel it sticky in any edge, just go ahead and give it a little bit more. I'm gonna give it another donut. I'm gonna go a little thicker this time, because I want a big donut. Big honking donut going in. All right. I'm gonna flip this one over. Flip that one over. Yeah. There are all kinds of donuts. We've got diversity donuts here today. We've got all different colors, different shapes, different sizes. go. This is gonna be a thick donut. That's the kind of donut I am. I'm just thick. I'm a thick chef. That'll be my new nickname. All right, so we're rolling it out one more time. Pat it out. Cut it out. How many people we got here? Awesome, awesome. So if everyone's making 8 donuts and we got lots of donuts, we can be the biggest donut business in the country right now. Hi, Cassandra. That's my... All right. Look at that. We'll give it. It feels kind of heavy still, so I'm gonna go ahead and give it another minute. Hey guys, were you anyone here yesterday that made the bread? Oh my gosh, I had that bread for breakfast this morning. We toasted it up and put some avocado, mashed avocado, and made avocado toast out of it. Chef Terry did an amazing job yesterday. If you guys haven't made that bread, go look up the class from yesterday and make the bread too. Yeah, the bread was amazing. That's my go-to bread from now on. All right, then she has 3 to share from me. All right, so here's that big thick donut. It might be a little too thick. There's a couple of yeah, I've got 6. This one, there's a little, needs to go a little bit longer. Over here. All right, these 2. Here we go. Yeah, I'm gonna move it. So I'm gonna do my mixing, decorating over there on the other side because I've got a mess over here. So I always cook clean, but we're trapped on time, so I'm gonna go ahead and just move over a little bit. Excuse me. Okay, guys, wash your hands one more time. Just get off the dough. And this time I want you to definitely use soap, because we were working with dough that had raw egg in it and had raw flour in it. I don't know if you guys know about raw flour. Raw flour is really something we're all talking about now. There's a potential of E. coli in raw flour. So when you're eating cookie dough, eggs aren't the problem anymore. It's the raw dough too. Raw flour, it can be a potential pathogen for... All right, who's that? Dawn Jones says there's never a donut too big. Okay, so this was the question about the powdered sugar and the milk. Okay, got another whisk. And this is this powdered sugar. I don't even know if we measured this out, right? Probably didn't. All right, so it doesn't really need a measurement on this recipe. What you're looking for is consistency. So I'm adding in just the whole milk. This one you can use any kind of milk you have. If you have almond milk, you can certainly use that because we're making a paste. And I may have added way too much milk, so I'll ask no powdered sugar. I didn't even think about it. So just be careful when you're adding in and don't add too much milk if you want your glaze to be pretty thick. Chef Terry's gonna grab me some more powdered sugar. So this just looks like a thick milk right now. So to this is the basic glaze recipe. It's just mixing powdered sugar and milk. She nailed it. All right. She needs to sign on and say, oh, we've got lots of fun. Lots of sugar. So you can just sign on Saturday for Nailed It class this week. We are gonna be doing Nailed It every Saturday until this thing ends up. And last week we had some amazing entries for our Easter Nailed It, where there were tons of rabbits, little cakes made out of bunnies, and we really love seeing all the entries. All right, so you just need very little milk, lots of sugar, because we're just making a paste, or a thick paste. And once you get it to this consistency, you just want to keep mixing it until you see all the little lumps of powdered sugar disappear. All right, I'm going kind of thin on this one. because I don't like a lot of extra sugar on my donut. All right, I'm going to use this and put it over here, and then I'm going to just pick a flavor. This is the sprinkles. So what we need to do is think of it as a paste. We're going to dip it in, and we're going to go halfway in, come out, and see how it's on there. You're just going to dip it into your sprinkles, and then you're going to turn it over and let it dry. All right. The next one, I'm going to do this whole one. We're going to do nerds. All right. Dip it in. Get the paste, the glaze on there. Stick your nerds on there. Didn't stick as well as I want, so I'm going to reach over there and give it some more nerds and let it dry. The hard part is going to be letting it sit to dry. Okay. I'm going to do one little bit of this. Chocolate chips. Oops, that didn't want to stay. Doesn't want to stay. Chocolate chips. We're going to sprinkle the chocolate chips on top. I'm going to just add a little more sugar to my mix. Oh, it's starting to settle. I can feel it in the bottom. All right. Oops, I might have gone too thick. Anyway, that'll be for the donut. Stir it all in. This is when we add in our Reese's Peanut Butter Cup donut and our Oreo donuts. All right. Because those are a little heavier, you're going to need a little bit more sugar to make the glaze a little thicker. Now to this is a white glaze. You can add a drop of food coloring if you like and turn it pink. You can turn it blue. You can do rainbow donuts, however you want to do it. You can do multiple different colors in different bowls. All right, so I'm going to just dip it. And on this one, I'm just going to get the glaze good and glazed. This is going to be old school glaze, but I'm going to add in these mini Oreos to stick. Right. Another again. Regular. Reese's. All right, the glaze is really easy. Someone asked me for that recipe. It's just a mixture of a little bit of milk and a little bit of powdered sugar. Now the powdered sugar is going to be a lot more than the milk, so think of it maybe a cup of powdered sugar to 2 tablespoons of milk. Start with that and then add a tablespoon at a time till you get the consistency that you want. Like I said, I like my glaze a little bit thinner. I don't like a lot of sugar on it because I like to taste of the cake part of the donut, or the base part of the donut. So here's one. I'm going to do nerds. There you go. This is for Mr. Hugo. He loves his nerds. All right. This one I'm going to do another sprinkles. There was one called foie gras, which is the goose liver. That was the weirdest topping I've ever seen. And what it was a truffle donut with foie gras glaze, and I think it had something crunchy like pancetta, a little bit of salt. So that's a fancy adult donut. This chocolate doesn't like to stick, so I'm just gonna stick it on there. All right. And there's the donuts. There's that big Papa donut. All right, which one do you think I'm gonna go with? I'm just gonna go with those Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. All right. Big Papa donut, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. And then that's my donuts for today. There's also these little donut holes you guys didn't see. That's what the chef gets to taste in the kitchen. Super good. Great alone. That's awesome. So someone said the recipe of the donut alone without the glaze is good too. So Of course, you can have it however you like it. I like it like this. I like it with just a little powdered sugar and cinnamon toss on it. But these are the fancy donuts that I was talking about doing with you guys. Some like voodoo style donuts that people like. You can do whatever you want. That's your call, and it's your way of imagining what your donut looks like. Next week we'll be back together on Tuesday and Thursday. I will post the recipes. I have not had a second to think about what we're doing, but of course it'll be amazing. We're also going to be doing some classes coming up that are not on Facebook Live, but they're going to be on Zoom, and we're going to be doing more adult style classes. Going to keep doing the 2 free kids classes, but some more adult style classes of teaching you how to cook things like bolognese or scampi. I've had a request for a paella and some tapas, so we'll be doing like a paella party next week or the week after. Things like that, how to make fresh pasta and roll it out, things like that. We're trying to get some ideas of how you guys and what you guys are looking for. If you want to just send us a quick note and on our Facebook and let us know what you think that would make a great class, we'd be happy to try to incorporate that for you guys. These classes are going to cost a little bit of money, somewhere between $15 and $20, depending on the class. They should run for about 1.5 to 2 hours, and you'll be able to pick up the ingredients. We'll give you plenty of times. That's what you're going to need to do. We're trying to stay a little bit away from baking for those classes because we're all using up all our yeast and all our dough and all our flour and everything. Any questions so far about what we're doing? All right. Pork dumplings, like some Chinese pork dumplings or Asian pork dumplings. Awesome. That's maybe a fun class. Maybe we're just doing all kinds of dumplings. I want you to take your pictures of yours. These are my donuts. I want to see your donuts. Make sure you get them before you eat them. We also, even before you eat them, I'm going to get some pictures. Get me a picture of you eating them too. Love to see those. Remember that if you want to give back to us, we have support us through gratuities. We can take Venmo, Zelle, PayPal, and the Cash App. So we're available on all of those if you are feeling generous today. We really enjoy you being here, and we will see you next Tuesday at 12 noon for something fancy, something you'll love. All right, bye.